On May 24th, 2022, after hours of agonizing uncertainty, law enforcement came for us as we waited at the reunification center. They told us they were taking us somewhere quieter to wait, but I knew in that moment there would be no reunion. In a small room, a familiar face and trusted friend delivered news I still haven't come to terms with. My daughter, Lexi Rubio, was never coming home. The next day, as I lay mute, uncomprehending, and in a state of shock, our governor told the nation it could have been worse. We initially denied an invitation to speak with Greg Abbott out of respect for our daughter, who disliked him for his lack of respect for women's rights. But we did agree to speak with Beto. He offered his condolences and reassured us that change was possible in this state. He asked what he could do for me. I told him it's too late for me. But tell me how I can help you help other moms. So that's why I'm here. I'm speaking directly to moms when I say our babies' lives are on that ballot. It happened to me, it happened to you, it can happen to you. And this pain, it'll bring you to your knees begging for an end. Maybe you don't consider yourself a political person. Maybe you're not a fan of either candidate. But I implore you to ask yourself, do you want to send your child off to school and have them return? Do you want to hug them every night before bed? Do you want the opportunity to watch them grow? Then vote accordingly. Vote for Beto, because a vote for Abbott is a grave mistake. And that is something I'm all too familiar with. I made a small error in judgment and it cost my daughter her life. I left her at school. Lexi's death, it's on me. But Greg Abbott made a mistake so massive that it cost the lives of 18 other children and 2 teachers. He has repeatedly refused to enact stricter gun laws and has instead expanded gun rights. Had Abbott prioritized the lives of his most vulnerable constituents over guns, then I wouldn't be here today. I would be at home with Lexi.
Hello everyone, my name's Felix Rubio. I'm not a man of many words. Since May 24th, I'm Lexi's dad. I served in the Army National Guard starting 2006 to 2012 with 2 tours to Iraq. I've held a weapon of war. It doesn't belong in homes, and especially not in the hands of an 18-year-old kid. I went to war and I made it home. My daughter went to school and was murdered in her classroom. I fought for my country overseas, and now I'm fighting for changes. Starting with voting for Beto. This is more than just a political race. Lives are on the line. I'm not a political person. I'm reserved, but I can't sit back and let Abbott get reelected. Hours after I was informed of my daughter's death, Abbott said, "It could have been worse." Well, what did he mean? I don't want to know. This November, let's do what we can do and vote Abbott out.
Hello, my name is Gloria, and my daughter is Jackie Cáceres. Jackie was my free-spirited, sentimental princess who loved her friends and family with all her heart. She was massacred at her school on May the 24th along with 18 of her friends and 2 of her teachers, because an 18-year-old had easy access to an assault rifle. If changes were made years ago, my daughter would still be alive today. After 77 minutes, my daughter was transported to the hospital with a heartbeat. She later died while a stranger got to hold her hand. There's nothing that I can do that is going to bring my daughter back. But I'm fighting for the future mom who will one day be in my shoes, who will blame herself for leaving her daughter at school after the morning award ceremony. For 18 weeks, myself, my husband, along with other parents from Uvalde, have asked Abbott to call a special session. We've asked to raise the age limit to purchase an assault rifle from 18 to 21. We've asked for red flag laws and background checks. In Texas, we need someone to advocate for our children and families. We need someone with energy and a fearless attitude who isn't scared to do the right thing. Beto is that person. We are not going anywhere. We are definitely not done, and we are going to vote Abbott out.
Hello, my name is Javier Cáceres, father of Jackie Cáceres. I want to thank Beto for being here, standing with us. You know, that takes a lot. It means a lot. You know, Abbott, I met with him the second day after the shooting, and he asked what he can do for our community. You know, we asked questions, and did we get an answer? No. We went with him twice. He asked again, what can you do for us? Again, he couldn't answer those questions. We've been denied certain things that he brought us, you know, he said he was going to help with. He denied it to our faces. Again, 18 weeks later, nothing has been done. And we're not demanding, we're asking him, we're demanding for change. You know, we've been asking for the special session. Still, no answer. We've asked the Lieutenant Governor as well. We've asked Mr. Phelan as well. And again, it's no answers or no's. And we're tired of it. I mean, it's a slap to our faces every day. You know, we struggle every day. And with the help of Mr. Beto, hopefully, you know, getting him in office will change things. Again, thank you for your support, everybody's support and prayers. Again, please help us, help him win this election and get Abbott out. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Veronica Mata. I'm Tess Marie. Tess Marie Mata was our 10-year-old daughter. Tess was full of life, athletic, caring, and was our little fashionista. She loved her older sister Faith and wanted to be just like her. Her grandparents meant the world to her. Tess would always say she had them wrapped around her pinky, and she wasn't lying. She was the best cousin, and she was our beautiful brown-eyed girl. She was taken from us in the most horrific way. Tess, along with 18 of her friends and 2 teachers, were massacred in what should have been one of the safest places a student could go to. They were massacred in their classrooms. Let me say that one more time. They were massacred in their classrooms by an 18-year-old who was able to purchase not 1, but 2 semi-automatic rifles, along with 1,600 rounds of ammunition. It has been 18 weeks since our children and 2 teachers were taken from us. Governor Abbott has only met with us once. The tragedy occurred, and when he asked us what it was, what he could do to help, we asked for stricter gun laws, and we asked for the age limit to be raised from 18 to 21. And as you can see, he has yet to take any action. We are no longer asking, we are demanding that Governor Abbott call a special session and raise the age limit to 21. Governor Abbott said it could have been worse when talking about the Robb school shooting. How can we trust someone who doesn't care about our kids enough to want to keep them safe? The answer is simple: we cannot. We are here today to ask you to help keep our children and teachers safe. We are here to speak up so that children are not being murdered in their classrooms anymore. We do this by voting Abbott out. We do this by voting for Beto. He has no affiliation with the NRA, wants stricter gun laws in place, and actually cares about the death of our children and teachers. It is time for change, and it needs to be done now.
I want to begin by thanking you all for being here today, because you are able now to amplify and elevate the stories of these families from Uvalde. As Veronica just reminded us, it has been 18 weeks, and not a single thing has changed to make it any less likely that any other child in any other classroom in any other community in Texas will meet the same fate as these 19 children did on the 24th of May of this very year, along with their two extraordinary teachers who had already sacrificed so much for those kids day in and day out, and ultimately gave their lives for them. The answers are before us, and you've heard the parents themselves who know this better, unfortunately, than any of us here do, that raising the age of purchase for a weapon originally designed for war. Felix, who served twice in Iraq, willing to put his life on the line for this country, described coming back safely to the United States of America, to Uvalde, but his daughter up against one of those weapons of war, not able to make it through that school day or through that school year. Raising the minimum age of purchase to 21 is something that not only do all of us here agree on, not only does the mayor of Uvalde and the entire city council, who, as Veronica said, demanded that the governor call a special session to bring Republicans and Democrats around the table to do just that. But I've traveled to every part of this state, literally. Listened to people who are for me. I've listened to people who will never vote for me. All of them agree that this makes sense. It allows us to continue to defend the Second Amendment while better protecting the lives of our children. I want to anticipate a question that some of you might have, that I've heard at these town halls across the state. But Beto, criminals won't follow the law. It won't matter what we do. I think in some cases we have to acknowledge that's true. But this troubled young man in Uvalde patiently waited till he was 18 years old, never tried to acquire that firearm when he was 16 or 17. Upon his 18th birthday, he was legally able to go into a gun store and buy not one, but two AR-15s and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Republicans, Democrats, independents, gun owners alike all agree that raising the age allows us at least 3 more years for some kind of intervention in a person's life like this young man in Uvalde. Other common sense, common ground ideas I've heard: a red flag law, which simply says that if you already have that firearm and you're threatening to use it against yourself or use it against someone in your life or take it into a classroom, we should remember that this shooter in Uvalde was signaling so strongly what he might do that his friends called him the school shooter before he ever walked into Robb Elementary on the 24th of May 2022. A red flag law could save lives. A universal background check, which just simply says that in addition to the background check that takes place at a federally licensed gun dealer, if you buy at a gun show or from a private seller, you go through a background check as well. Again, I have yet to meet the Texan who will argue that point, except for Greg Abbott. He's called special sessions to determine which kids can go to which bathrooms. He's called special sessions to determine which version of history we're allowed to teach in our schools. He's called 2 special sessions to weaken our right to vote, but 18 weeks and counting, and all of us today are still counting. He has yet to lift a finger to call a special session, to bring people around the table, to move forward on common sense solutions that defend the Second Amendment while better protecting the lives of our kids, our families, and the people in our communities. As you listen to Kimberly and to Felix, as you listen to Javier and Gloria, as you just listened to Veronica, who stands here with Jerry, as we think about the lives lost, taken from us, Lexi and Jackie and Tess, and although they didn't speak, Nevaeh's family is here, Annabelle's family is here, and I have a card signed by many of the other families in Uvalde who lost a loved one. I just want you to know this. Though Greg Abbott has set the conditions of tonight's debate, that not a single one of his constituents in this state is allowed in a hall that seats hundreds, not even these families here. I will be carrying this card, tokens and mementos that other families have given me, their stories and their spirit and their leadership into that debate, and every single day of this campaign, and every single day that I draw a breath. They are owed, and by extension so are we, justice and accountability. They are owed the memories of their daughters and sons kept alive forever. And they are also owed action. And the only way that we are going to get that is through change. The last thing that I want to say before all of us will happily take your questions is this. Before the crack of dawn, these families that you see behind me boarded buses in Uvalde, Texas. It is más o menos 280 miles from where we are today in Edinburgh. And it reminds me of the fact that on the 24th of May of this year, when the governor was near Abilene, Texas, about 280 miles from Uvalde, when at that time he knew that as many as 14 children had been killed, but they hadn't recovered all the bodies, they hadn't told all of the parents, he had a choice to make. He could drive just as these families did for 5 hours, 280 miles, due south to Uvalde to be with them, or he could go in the opposite direction, about 300 miles, to a fundraiser on a private jet. You all know what he chose to do. He went to that fundraiser, did not show up until the next day, and then when he did, as one of the families just shared with us, he began by saying, it could have been worse. We need someone who prioritizes the lives of our kids over the interests of the NRA or any other special interest group or really any other matter at all. Amy, my wife, who is with me here today, we're raising our 3 kids, Ulysses, Molly, and Henry in El Paso. There is nothing but nothing that is more important to us than them, just like these families right here, right now. And I will do everything in my power to come through for them and for every child in this state. I know that their judgment is upon us. I know that the only voice that they have in this election is through the votes of those who are eligible to cast them. We cannot be found wanting, and we absolutely must come through. Last thing that I want to say is that after we have this press conference here today, after we have a chance to say goodbye to one another, later this afternoon, these same families will be getting on that same bus and traveling those same 280 miles, nearly 5 hours. They will not get home to their community and to their families until after 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. Look at what they are willing to do, not for themselves. There's nothing they can do by being here now to get their kids back. They are doing it for your kids and for every other child across the state of Texas right now. Whether we're Republicans, Independents, or Democrats, let us be inspired by their leadership and follow the way that they have set. Thank you all for coming out here today. I want to thank the families again for being here and standing so strong, making us so proud of this state. The guy in office right now is not a reflection of who we are. These families are who we are at our best. Chris Evans from our team is going to facilitate the questions. And I know that we've got a lot of folks here, which is wonderful. There may be questions about the horse race in the election or about a number of other issues. I'm very happy to answer those at tonight's press conference following the debate. Right now, given the 10-hour round-trip drive these families have made, I would ask you to please keep your questions to the subject at hand. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks. Let's start up front with Nikki at the Statesman and then the Texas Tribune.
I think she's the one that gave the Statesman.
The question is, we win this race. How are we going to make progress and change that all of us today are asking for? Those three ideas, raising the age to 21, a red flag law, having a universal background check, are almost universally supported across the political spectrum in the state of Texas. For example, the Republican mayor of Fort Worth is supportive of raising the age. The mayor of Uvalde, and he and I don't see eye to eye probably on a whole lot, but even he is supportive of that issue. Really, the only person standing in the way is the governor of the state of Texas. Change who that governor is, replace him with somebody who's willing to take action, who will seek the common ground. I'll bring every Republican, every Democrat around the table. And I tell you what, it will not just be legislators and politicians at that table. These families will be at that table with us. And I dare any legislator to ignore them or not do the common sense thing that's on the common ground before us that will save lives. This is a question for the families.
Yes, we would definitely love to be in the audience, correct? Yes. We would. We're not. We're going to be at a convention center with more of Bethel supporters, and we'll be watching from there.
First of all, ¿cuál es su estrategia para alcanzar la diferencia mínima de porcentajes de las encuestas su oponente Greg Abbott? Y en segundo lugar, ¿por qué Abbott no quiere a estas familias en el interior del recinto del debate?
Voy a contestar la primera pregunta esta noche porque es aparte de que estamos discutiendo ahora sobre el segundo o la segunda. Yo sé que con el liderazgo de las familias que tenemos aquí, sus ejemplos, podemos cambiar las leyes que tenemos en el estado en este momento. Por ejemplo, podemos aumentar o subir la edad de comprar un AR-15 o AK-47 a 21 años. Es algo que tiene el apoyo de republicanos, independientes, demócratas también, los dueños de armas y gente que no tienen armas en su casa. Y va a proteger las vidas de los hijos y hijas que tenemos en el estado de Texas al mismo tiempo que podemos defender la segunda enmienda. Gracias.
¿Cuál es el mensaje para aquellos en español, para aquellos republicanos que incluso están de acuerdo con hacer cambios a las leyes del corte de armas?
Después de perder las vidas de 19 niños y niñas y 2 maestras hace 18 semanas y no tenemos cambio para proteger las vidas de los niños y niñas en otras partes del estado, incluyendo nuestra familia en El Paso. Las soluciones son de las familias y tienen el apoyo de republicanos y demócratas, de la gente del estado. Subir la edad de comprar una AR-15 o AK-47, tener una revisión universal de antecedentes, un bandera roja o red flag law. Como eso podemos defender la segunda enmienda, algo muy importante en el estado de Texas, pero al mismo tiempo podemos proteger las vidas de nuestros hijos y hijas. Y yo estoy escuchando a republicanos en cada parte del estado, también gente que están apoyando a Greg Abbott. Somos de acuerdo en las 3 ideas en que estamos hablando. ahora. Y tenemos el liderazgo de las familias. Ellos, yo pienso, van a cambiar este estado en las elecciones, pero después en el trabajo que tenemos en el próximo año con el Congreso en el nivel estatal. He wants one of the family members to answer the same question.
Todo lo que dijo él es correcto.
Yeah, in Spanish, you can do it? Okay.
¿La pregunta de nuevo?
¿Cuál es el mensaje para aquellas familias que todavía no están decididas por muchos temas en esta causa que ustedes están emprendiendo? ¿Y ustedes qué les piden a esa gente que van a votar?
Es muy buena su pregunta. La situación es esta. Una situación de esta, cuando una persona fallece, un niño fallece, el tirador, él no tiene diferencia, él no piensa si uno es republicano, si uno es demócrata. Eso no es diferencia. Entonces lo que le pedimos a la comunidad, a las familias, a todas las personas, no tiene que ver si uno es republicano o demócrata. Lo importante es salir a votar, salir a proteger a su familia, para que nunca puedan ellos pasar por los que están pasando las familias en este momento. Eso es lo importante. Simplemente votar para alguien que va a tomar acción, alguien como el señor O'Rourke.
We're going to go over here to ABC 13 Houston.
Hi, this is a question for the family. So, given the terms of tonight's debate, it's a one and done type of deal. It's closed off to the public, and y'all have wanted answers for so long. You've traveled nearly 300 miles to be here. You won't be able to be in the same room as Abbott to addressing the very hard issues that y'all have wanted answers to. How does that make you feel as constituents and as victims of a very horrific tragedy?
Can't make me perfect enough.
I think it's frustrating and it's extremely disrespectful not to have us be present. As for the answers, he knows what we've asked. He just refuses. He refuses to act. Honestly, we'll just add this to the long list of things that he isn't going to do for us.
Is there anything you're going to be listening for tonight in the debate?
I think we have our answers. I think we're interested in the rest of Texas seeing what a failure he is. That's my take.
Monica, KXAN, that's fun.
This would be a question for Mr. O'Rourke and for the families, but what do you make to the governor, his response to the calls to raise the age limit on purchasing an assault weapon at 21? He said that is unconstitutional. What is your reaction to hearing something like that, especially since states like Florida, which is Republican, have passed similar laws after your message?
I still want to see that where it says it's unconstitutional on the Constitution itself. Second Amendment doesn't say that. You have to be 18 to buy that rifle. This is something that was written almost 20 years ago. And again, it didn't say he can be 13, 18. And to me, it's BS. He just doesn't want to do it.
I want to quickly add to what Javier said. It took the state of Florida, you alluded to this, 23 days after the shootings at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas with the Republican governor. To the question earlier about what do we say to Republicans, I think 5 other states with Republican governors in the wake of that massacre also raised the minimum age of purchase to 21 for an AR-15, AK-47. Here's the proof that it works. Mass shootings in those states, in their schools, are down by more than 80%. Will it save every life in every state in every instance? Of course it won't. Nothing ever will. Will it save more lives? Absolutely. And that's all that these families, it's all that any of us are asking for right now. Again, the only thing missing is leadership. And if the governor doesn't think that raising the age is the right solution, bring Democrats and Republicans to the table and let's find another solution. He mentioned mental health that same day that he said it could have been worse. He took $211 million out of the state's mental health budget the month before the massacre in Uvalde. We were already 51st in the nation in access to a mental health care provider. There's a standard for mental health care access within our schools. We're at 3% of meeting that standard. In other words, most children don't have access to the care that they need. And when it comes to funding, you know, he may say, well, we need to do more to equip these schools or equip local law enforcement. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm all about it. Let's fully fund our police departments. But I will say this. The Uvalde Police Department 7 years ago asked for funding for their radios because they didn't work when they were inside of buildings. The governor denied them the funding. They asked again 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. They asked again this year. He denied them funding every single year. Now, this isn't the main cause, and this doesn't explain or condone anything else. I will just say, though, those radios were not working inside of that school building because they were not funded by the governor. There needs to be accountability, and I think Julie Fine can speak to this because she interviewed the governor and asked him a question about this. And the governor said, and you all can go look at the tape, he said there needs to be accountability up and down the ballot. Whether that was a Freudian slip, whether he really meant to say that, I think I could not have said it better. There needs to be accountability up and down the ballot. The number one word that I heard when I followed these families as they led a march in Uvalde and then spoke to the community and really the rest of the world from the Placita in downtown Uvalde was accountability. Why do they still not have answers about what happened to their children and why it happened? Why has there been no accountability from the school district, from the community, from the state of Texas? 91 DPS troopers were there on the other side of an unlocked door. So we need leadership right now from our governor. We don't have it, and to somehow expect that after 8 years he's going to change and do something, we become part of the problem. That's why we need to vote for change.
Are you going to tell me to pass through over here?
I didn't already hear.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't hear the question. She can repeat it?
Do you mind, yes, Jesse Rizzo. Ma'am, can you repeat the question again for him, please?
Does she just want us to answer in Spanish?
In
Because we
Spanish.
already answered it. Do you want to just answer it for us?
Yeah.
Just what Kim said.
Ok, gracias. Es algo uno que se decepciona. Es como dijo el señor Abbott, perdón, Beto O'Rourke, es algo difícil. 280 millas, 5 horas en un camión. Uno llora, uno piensa, uno reza. Se pone a ver una película, se duerme un ratito y despierta y llega al destino y simplemente la puerta sigue cerrada. La puerta sigue cerrada así como la cierra todo el tiempo el Señor. Uno le pide un special session y no lo quiere hacer. Le tomamos diferentes maneras para tomar un special session y no lo quiere hacer el señor Abbott. Entonces llega uno aquí a este lugar, la recepción, los familiares, a todas las citas que los familiares van, llegan, entregan su testimonio y es difícil para explicar eso, pero se sube uno otra vez al autobús y los niños o las niñas, los familiares, no suben con uno, no regresan a su destino, a su casa. Llega uno a su casa y los niños no están ahí. Pero el mensaje que traemos hoy, el mensaje es soportar al señor Beto O'Rourke y darle ánimo, rezar por él, que las palabras de hoy, que tomen buen mensaje para que gane esta carrera.
Yeah, the question is, could this massacre have been avoided if we had different laws on the books? If, for example, Greg Abbott had done something after the massacre at Santa Fe High School in Galveston County in 2018, or after Sutherland Springs, or after Midland, Odessa, or after I lost 23 of my neighbors in El Paso. Clearly, the answer is yes. I mentioned raising the age to 21 at least would have purchased us 3 more years for some kind of intervention in that troubled young man's life. He didn't try to get the gun when he was 16 or 17. If the law said 21, well, then that's 3 more years. A red flag law. He signaled what he might very well do, so much so that his friends called him the school shooter. We don't have a red flag law in Texas, so law enforcement are prevented from intervening and through due process, removing a firearm from a household like that one so it's not used against children in their classrooms. And a universal background check. In Midland, Odessa in 2019, a guy walked into a gun store, tried to buy an AR-15, just like the weapon used in Uvalde. He didn't pass the background check, which is great because it shows that it works. But because we don't have a universal background check in Texas, he was able to buy the same firearm from a private seller, no questions asked, and turn around and use it on people in that community. And within Midland, Odessa that day, 8 people were killed. So whether it was averting the massacres in El Paso, where a red flag law might have saved the day, a universal background check in Midland, raising the minimum age of purchase, there are solutions before us. And these are, I just want to reiterate, these are things that did not come from me or the Democratic Party or really any one person. They come from these families who I am listening to and whose lead I'm following right now. They come from gun owners. They come from people of all walks of life. You know, there's a lot that we're going to argue about in a state as big as ours. There's 30 million people. But to find this much common ground on these three ideas, that's really something. And it's the obligation of the governor to move forward when you have that kind of consensus. He's obviously shown that he won't. In fact, the week of the shooting in Uvalde, he chose to address the NRA. I think that should show us where his priorities are right now. You heard me describe what he did the day of the shooting, May 24th. He didn't come down. He didn't make the same trip they just made today. And by the way, they're making it round trip on the very same day. He chose to take a private jet and go to a fundraiser that day. So we have choices before us. And, you know, I think Kimberly said it really well. Every single voter has a choice before them. We may not like everything about every candidate, right? But we all love our kids. And we want to make sure that they survive the school year. And every one of those kids knows that nothing has changed since May 24th, 2022. And they also know there's no good reason for nothing to change. And we might, you know, thus far have blamed this on Greg Abbott. And I think he deserves all the blame because he has failed Texas, as Kimberly just said. But if we fail to change this, it's then on all of us. And that's why we're all here right now. We want to give every Texan the opportunity to do the right thing at the right time. This is really our last best chance. Voting begins on October 24th. For young people out there, their last day to register is October 11th. One of the parents here just told me they are leading a registration drive on October 8th. This is why these families are my heroes. Everyone would understand if they never showed their face in public again, if they wanted to have nothing to do with this. I can't imagine how hard it is for them to repeat their stories in front of you, knowing they're going to be broadcast to hundreds of thousands or millions of people. They're not doing this for themselves. They're not registering voters for themselves. They're doing this to save lives across the state of Texas.
Okay, can I add to what he just...
Please, Javier.
If there was a waiting period for to buy this weapon, 30 days to 60 days, our kids would have been alive today. Simple as that.
No one knows for sure, but we expect this to be a conversation tonight at the debate. But again, no audience. How are you going to make sure that you're going to bring these stories into that debate hall and have it be effective?
The question is, the governor's condition for the debate was that no one that he is supposed to serve as governor is allowed inside of the debate hall. Not even our spouses, right? Like I can't bring Amy into the debate hall. It's the camera operators and the panelists. And by the way, he chose a Friday night in the state of Texas in football season to have the debate. So the question Gerald asks is, if the families literally physically cannot be in that debate hall with us, how do I bring what they've just shared with us and what they've been sharing with me over the last 18 weeks? I mentioned this card. It's got Jackie's face on it, but it's got the names of all the other families. I have a card with Lexi's picture on it. I have a ribbon from Alithia's funeral. I'm going to take whatever other mementos these families want to give me, and I will literally physically bring them in to the debate hall with me. They will be on me. But more importantly, than anything that I can physically carry with me is their spirit. The leadership that they are showing right now, this is what gives me hope, and it's what gives me optimism at a time that as a people, as a state, we badly need it. Folks are getting crushed right now in this state. I mean, it can be inflation, it can be this total abortion ban, this attack on women, it can be any number of things that they face and that they fear, and they need some hope. And when they see these families who have been through so much and have lost everything almost that is important to them stand and fight right now so that all of us can overcome, that's pretty damn inspiring. And I want to make sure that that inspiration that I feel is conveyed as I share these stories in the debate hall tonight. And I reach those Texans who are trying to make a decision about this election. What's the course that we're going to take? Is what happened on the 24th of May going to be our future, our fate, our fortune going forward? Or can we do something better? And I think these families have demonstrated we absolutely will do something better. We are going to win this, and we're going to win this because of families like these who are willing to lead at this moment of truth. Thank you all for being here today. I want to thank these families for joining us. Extraordinary courage and heroism and strength. Les agradezco por venir, and thank you all. We'll see you again tonight for those of you who come to the press conference after the debate. Thank you.